Welcome to episode 7 of the Irish Mags Show, brought to you by the Irish Mags NUFC Supporters Group. My name is Paul. I will be your host for today, and assisting me are my own two Jason Tyndalls. It's Mr. Alan Williamson. Say hello, Alan.
How's it going, lads? How's it going, everyone?
Very good, Alan. Good to have you back. And of course, we have Mr. Krisho Martin. Say hello, Krisho.
Hello, Krisho. Hi, everybody. Hi, Paul. Thanks for setting me up like that. I really missed it the last couple of weeks.
Giving it back to you. You're getting a freebie. You're getting a freebie because we've had a tough weekend. Krisho.
I'm starting positive. We're starting positive.
Yes.
We're starting positive. Yeah.
I love it.
That's it.
Lads, before we start, I just want to give one quick shout out. I'm under a bit of pressure for this. We've had some great comments and feedback about our Irish Mags theme tune for the show. So on YouTube, we had at no name 2568, we had at D Bullman 2, we had GBR Glax 9700, all in the comments section asking how they can get hold of the Irish Mags theme tune. So we will be making it available for download very soon. It's a work in progress. Tev, if you're listening, you know, you know. But the credit for that goes to two people. So one of those is my mate Rory, who's actually my neighbor in my building. He's in a band and he's very into music and stuff. He put it together for us. And Alan, you can keep me honest here. I believe it was yourself that had the idea of blending the Dropkick Murphys, shipping up the
So man,
it was.
Releases.
Oh yeah,
So,
like
any origins?
I wanted to do a podcast when I was about 13, and that was the song I was going to use. I'm now 30, and I finally got to do it. So happy days.
Now you've heard it, folks. Alan Williamson is currently living his dreams.
Absolutely, it's great.
Love to hear it. So fair play to Alan, and of course, fair play to Rory. As I said, we will make that available to download very soon. Right, lads. So we were all very much all smiles last week, not only after that glorious victory we had against those awful Mackham neighbours of ours, but also because we had the pleasure of having ex-Newcastle legend Warren Barton on the show to give us what I would say is an exclusive, kind of a no-filter Irish Mags interview.
Yeah.
So if any of our listeners haven't already, we recommend you listen back to what was actually an extra special 2-part episode. One with Warren himself, and then the second part was our review of that Sunderland game. However, this week, I suppose it's fair to say we find ourselves back in a somewhat familiar territory this week as we prepare to discuss another late defeat, this time at the hands of Manchester City, which consigned us to what I believe is our 4th straight league defeat now. And unfortunately, lads, that leaves us in 10th place in the league. And even more kind of worryingly, we're 11 points off the top 4, which is, I think none of us really expected to have that much of a gap to make up at this stage of the season.
No, definitely not.
So look, we're going to delve into that. I think we can take a lot of positives from that game and the two finishes that were scored by what's actually our first and third highest record signing. So very promising indeed. We'll do our best to unearth what we can take from that game as positives, which I believe there's plenty, to be fair. And then we'll obviously discuss some of the latest transfer news and then some, because there's a lot of question marks over, are we wasting our time talking about any of that in this window? Then we'll move on to my favorite part of the week, which is Krisho's bad take of the week. And I suppose for an extra bonus, folks, because we have a little bit of a welcome gap in fixtures, probably for all of us, not least the players and Eddie Howe, we're going to do a little bonus segment this week, and we're going to together build our all-time Newcastle United best 11 from the Premier League era. And what I can tell you, listeners, just for a little peek behind the curtain, is just before we hit record, I had to stop Alan and Krisho because they got straight in the middle of a heated debate. And I had to basically pull rank and say, save it for the pod.
It wasn't a debate. I was right. He was wrong. Let's get it right.
Remember, Alan's always right. Yeah.
100%.
Story of our lives, isn't it? Excellent, lads. Right. So before we do all of that, I think the best place for us to start this week is, of course, with an Irish Mags update. Not only did we have another great meetup over the weekend, we also saw a lot of our members travel to the game, which is great when we see the Irish Mags merch on tour brand. and some of the great photos that were doing the rounds. We asked our listeners to share some with us, and we got them in droves. So, Alan, we'll come to you as our Irish Mags correspondent. Let's hear about any potential shenanigans in the Bleecker Street Bar meetup this weekend.
There's never any shenanigans. We're always very well behaved. What are you talking about?
Yes, we are.
Yes, so it was the usual suspects plus a few others. Very good turnout. It was 12 or 13 of us. We had 2 Geordies who came over to join us, who were lovely. Kev and Sabrina, I think her name was. 2 lovely, lovely people. Just came over for the weekend, gave a search on Twitter or Facebook, found us and loved it. Said they'd definitely be here. We actually met a girl after the match who was from Newcastle, who was texting all her friends that were going to be coming over to join us in the Bleecker, which is fantastic. Yeah. But yeah, it was a cracking Al meet-up. Pity about the result, kind of. They're the Club World Champions, so it's not the worst result in the world, let's be honest about it. So, but great meet-up, and that's all we can really ask for.
And I think you said as well, and we're going to talk about it, but a great game, all things considered, obviously.
It was if you can cracking match to watch, if you know what I mean, especially if you were a neutral, that we're all not, but come here.
Yeah, but definitely, I agree. Yeah. And it's always harder to take at the end because we're starting to get too used to these late defeats, and it needs to end soon.
Yes.
And then sticking with the Irish Mags, Chris Show, as I mentioned, we love to see when our Irish Mags members actually go and travel to the game. I always get a bit jealous when I see the photos, but I put it for one side and I'm able to look and enjoy them. We actually asked our members to share as many photos with us as they could, so we could showcase them on the YouTube channel. So for those of you that aren't aware, if you're listening to our voices now, this show is also available on YouTube. And we're going to actually have a little bit of a scroll through the memories of that weekend, because there were some cracking photos, Chris Show. Starting with our very own Paul Slaughter, who by all accounts looks like he had an unbelievable weekend aside from the result.
It does. It absolutely, like the photos are great. Like you said, it's very important for us as a group, especially as a growing group, for everyone to start sharing their videos, because it seems to me now whereas it used to be pockets of people that kind of knew each other, and then it started to grow slowly. Now it's just collectively, everyone is starting to pretty much know each other. So we're all like, Fergus would send something in, or Paul would send something in, but they're all in the same photos. They're all at the same bars. We're all walking around with our Irish Mags flags. And obviously Tev is always snuck into every single photo, but there's really wonderful photos here right across from the guys doing the stadium tour, going to the Shark, going to Rosie's. Really beautiful pictures I think what's great as well is that people like Sean and Mike and Connor Costello and that, they send in beautiful photos of where they're sitting, and they get beautiful pre-match photos, and they get a few close-ups on Laura Woods, which we can see here. But it's really, really nice to see that the guys are starting to interact with that, and that's really what we need, because like we said, we just wanted to build a community. Whatever else comes from what we're trying to do here, look, that's what we're building. But it's all just about being able to watch the match together, and also if we're going to the match to Newcastle, to have a big gang of Irish fellas to hang around with, to show off essentially.
But I fully agree, and I love seeing like you mentioned, seeing the gangs the lads make. You can almost see how the night transpired, because you can see kind of Group A starting together, Group B, Group C, and then they're all together at about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. They all start to find each other and find themselves over in Newcastle. And there's some really nice photos. Like there'll be one on screen now. I think it's Anthony, which I assume is with his other half, his better half.
We hope.
On the sideline, right up beside the pitch. Yeah, we hope. Right up beside the pitch. And that's they're almost on the pitch where they're standing. Yeah. And then I suppose when you flick over then to one of Scott's photos, which will be on screen now as I'm speaking.
Yeah. Wow.
Like he's right up the back, like up,
what a view.
Probably up at the wall.
What a view.
Either maybe the wall was keeping him standing, we'll never know. But it's just that's one of the best, like, how would you describe it? One of the best, like, real photos from someone we know that's taken it.
I've just actually gotten a message off Scott. He just said, I finally reached the bottom of the stairs. It's only taken me a day and a half.
I mean, Scott's tired enough with all the work he does around helping with all of the logistics and the ticketing and the like. But for him to have to climb up those stairs, I'm sure it was a big ask.
You'd think he'd get himself a better one, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd think better ticket than that. He takes one for the team all the time.
That's it.
But
That's
it is a beautiful panoramic, though. You can see the city in the background.
Smashing.
It's a wonderful photograph.
It's a cracking photograph. Conversely, then a couple of photos started to drift in. Probably not just in the stadium, but there's one here that I really liked from. I think it's Owen from Owen OC. He's put a caption on it: "The best jersey of the weekend," and it's basically just somebody standing there with Ketsbaya 14 on the back, and
cracker, absolute cracker.
Anyone
remembers. I mean, were you saying that the photo, the jersey, or the player was a cracker?
All three.
He was a cracker.
Was just ever so slightly cracked. But again, yeah, I love going over there. Even like you're standing in somewhere like Shearer's or any of the bars, and there's always going to be someone in front of you with a retro old school jersey, and you're like, you can just start chatting to them about it.
Yeah,
because it's just a conversation point. So it's some more great like the selfies started to flow in then. We had a photo of Jack there on the screen here where he's outside the stadium. Is that on the balcony of one of the pubs there? Alan,
is it not the hotel? Is it not the hotel? I think it's the Sandman. I think. Now, don't quote me.
Yeah,
I don't actually know.
It's the balcony by the Sandman.
Jack can confirm for sure. And then we have another really good one of it says Paul O'Connell, and it doesn't look like the Paul O'Connell that I'm familiar with, but I assume it's obviously not him.
The line-out champion.
Yeah. But a crack selfie, before the game in the Newcastle hats. And then another one that I really liked, because I've actually met this guy and the two young fellas with him.
Deco
is from Declan. So I recall, I can't remember exactly which game it was, but basically I ended up with a spare ticket like last year, and it was actually Declan I was giving it to. So I met him and his sons and his wife and his mates in the bar. And really lovely fella. And he's kind of from my neck of the woods, so he gets an extra props.
And he was in the old Irish Mags group as well. So to be fair to him, he's an OG member.
He's very much an OG. He's on Trojan work for the Irish Newcastle community. And then, as we come to I suppose as the photos move on, basically we're in chronological order here, lads. Things start to go towards like Irish Mags in the evening and the nighttime. Another photo from Anthony here. Definitely a few beers consumed by this point, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
And then the last one I'm pulling up here then would be, I think it came from Tev. This looks like all the boys just kind of randomly came together in Rosie's.
Yes.
Krisho, I can only assume they were in there looking for your gloves, but
I was looking for an update before we went live tonight, but I only just got some garbled messages about Tev going around trying to sell the Irish Mags everywhere and carrying flags everywhere. So it's nice to see. It's nice to see like that. They, like you said, it all just did a bit of a roundabout, and they all collectively came in Roses at the end of the night, which looks like a right crack. I'm very jealous looking at these photos.
Yeah,
they always are.
It's that fear of missing out that I told you about last week, lads. It's a real thing. And look, it's great as well to see the Irish Mags flag. That we're doing well that these flags are surviving. All of these trips.
My flags, I look after them.
Alan,
my flags.
Alan must have GPS tracking on all of these flags. To make sure.
Heaven's already lost one, so we lost the right to own them. So they're my flags now.
Now, Tev, Alan has spoken.
Yes.
There you go.
Excellent. That was a great section, lads. And again, to all our listeners, guys, when you're traveling, make sure you get those photos in. We've had some great videos in as well. Obviously, it's a bit harder to put them on the pod here, but get as many photos as you can always, because what we're expecting to do towards the end of the season is have a huge montage of the year in review or the season in review. And look, they'll only go as far as the internet. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Go to the internet.
Not bad at all. Okay, guys, so that was a little review of the fans that travelled, and I think we've said that they experienced one hell of a game in terms of the quality of the football. Unfortunately, we are in a position where we have another defeat. It is at home, which is, what we very much don't want to see, and have been priding ourselves on our home record. I think the one place I wanted to start, Krisho, was obviously we went into that game without Joe Linton, and Lewis Miley's been great coming in, as we keep saying, at 17, and he's done far beyond what anyone would expect him. But I suppose going into it, did you have that burning in the back of your mind that like Joe Linton is a big loss against a team like this?
I mean, look, I think everyone listening, and especially you guys here, we all know, and we've said it, when they got kind of confirmation that Joe Linton's going to be out, It was 6 weeks, then it's 8 weeks. Now some people are talking at the end of the season. That it's a huge loss to the team. He's Newcastle's heart on the sleeve. This guy, I know Bruno and Sean Longstaff and so on, but a couple of them carried it as well. But Joe Linton is our guy. He's our major success story. And when I saw that he was going to be missing, yeah, okay, like you said about Miley coming in, it's fine. Miley's a little twig in comparison to this big oak tree that's just been hacked down. So I was really worried that we'd get completely overawed. I knew we'd go at it fast and hit them hard, but without John Linton as the kind of the backbone of it, the real impact guy coming from the left and centre of midfield, I thought we were going to get really like just basically caught on the hop again. And I know I keep saying it about being caught on the hop, but pushing up so far, losing the ball, and then within 2 or 3 passes, somebody's either scored or had a shot on goal. But I was really impressed. I thought the tactics were spot on. I thought the midfield three were great the whole game. I just thought that there was just too much quality in their midfield once they'd made their substitutions. But we'll come on to that, about our lack of being able to do that.
And I think it's a good start, I suppose, to what transpired. Like, when it was, I suppose it was fair. Like, we were more than matching them, right, for a lot of the first half. And he kind of felt it was going to take a moment of magic from somebody to break the deadlock. And Alan, look, Bernardo Silva has been doing moments of magic for quite some time in the Premier League now. I suppose, I mean, it's very intelligent. I was giving me flashbacks of like Gianfranco Zola back in the day, little behind the leg flick. But should we have done better defensively?
Yes, there's no question about it. Right, the whole thing of Anthony Gordon being fouled, he wasn't fouled. That wasn't a foul. Don't care what anyone says. He needed to get up. Once he knew he wasn't getting that free kick, get your arse up, get back to your position. Dan Burn had slotted into the centre half position. It's not Dan Burn's fault, that goal. It is not Dan Burn's fault. I like blaming goals on Dan Burn. That one's not his. Ball was stretched across to Walker, who had 20 minutes to sit down, look for the run, put the ball across. Now, don't get me wrong. What a finish.
Yeah.
That's it actually reminds me of Ferran Torres when he scored a hat-trick against us for City as well. He scored one of them back heels. City always score bangers against us. I hate them because they're so good. But it was a great goal, but a terribly defended goal. I feel if Gordon had been there and he had got out, Walker doesn't have that much time to find that pass, because it wasn't a cross, it was a pass.
Was it not Dan Burn's fault? Was it not Dan Burn's fault? He strolled across there. Did you not see him lugging across?
The ball was on the left. It was spread to the right. Dan Burn had slotted into the centre half as we had all moved the player across. Gordon was the missing man. If you're blaming anyone, you have to blame the man who wasn't marking his player, and that was Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, I think we over relied on we should have a free there, and when that happens, it's like is that moment of like, you know, I remember playing as a young lad and you just hear play the whistle and it's just roared at you, and maybe VAR is what's throwing some of these things off, but like if you're not getting that whistle and the ball's in play, you got to get up. It, you know, like
he's got to get up.
And I think there was that second, whatever it was, like of initially we should have a free kick, and then the frustration at not getting it, and City capitalised on that because that's what City do. Now, Krisho.
Yeah.
The phrase instant response.
And
what a response it was, because and I was explaining to you lads, I had been playing a football tournament and I came home kind of just before Bernardo. I just got in like just not too long before Bernardo scored that goal. And then I was like, I need to go in the shower. I'll try and get to half time because I had to go to a dinner. The Newcastle obliged that because I was basically standing there in my shorts, covered in sweat, and they went, fine, we'll give you 2 goals, one after another. And that's what happened. It's
just absolutely sensational mentality from all of them. The one thing I like about Newcastle, and I've only seen it maybe a handful of times in 2 years where they've dropped their heads. They certainly didn't drop their heads here. They took it on the chin, went 1-0 down, completely focused from the minute they walked on that pitch, even when Bernardo Silva scored. And I kind of felt, I don't know what about you guys, but I kind of felt, how the attack that we had, I really felt Gordon and Isak and that were really on it. They were on it, you know, their passes were crisp, their runs were good. And that's what was so exciting for me about watching the game, because even though, Man City are obviously clearly the best team in the world, when we're on it, we can match anybody. We can if we can start to take our chances, and I know I've been talking about it in the podcast the last couple of weeks, get our chances, take our chances. And I think, without it being a complete free fall down the league, if Isak and Gordon can continue to start taking those chances, because they were two unbelievable finishes, like really top-notch, top of the Premier League finishes. But I was honestly, every time we went on the attack, I honestly believed we were going to score. I really did. It was kind of like a Kevin Keegan thing. They scored 3, we'll score 4 kind of thing. That's what I felt that this game was going to go.
I think you've made a really good point that, like, it's there. We have that quality.
Yeah.
We have that confidence. We have that ability as a team and as individuals to score clinical finishing. They were really, like you said it yourself, really good finishes with great technique. And like the biggest testament I can kind of take from it is Pep was going mental on the sideline after that second goal went in. He's just because his standards are so high, right? And Alan, you said it. This is the club world champions. This is the best club team in the entire world, right? To see him not having a great time, he's not used to it.
No.
Like, that wasn't because they were making mistakes. It was because we had 2 quality players putting away 2 cracking goals. So we go into halftime, Alan, 2-1 up. I suppose the one thing you can say is, right, we're 2-1 up at home. A lot of us would be thinking, we can absolutely win this game.
Yeah.
But I suppose in reality, a couple of things happened. One is it was then City's turn to put up a response, right? And you're talking about these elite players under an elite manager who know and have the self-belief that they can get back in any game, even if they're losing. And then you just kind of throw in the fact that they managed to bring on Kevin De Bruyne, who's, up there with probably one of the best midfielders the Premier League has ever seen.
He's the best player on the planet at the minute.
Yeah.
He was on the pitch for 4.5 minutes and he had a goal and assist. He turned the game on his head. He is outrageous. To be able to bring that amount of quality off the bench when you're crying out for it. But don't get me wrong, Phil Foden didn't have a bad game. Doku didn't have a bad game. None of the players they took off or none of the players they played had bad games. But when you have the ability to bring on world class, that's how you change games. And he did exactly that. That pass for the 3rd goal.
Wow.
Joke. Absolute joke of a pass. Like I have a needle job, and that's exactly what it was. It was fantastic. And I hate saying it about opposition players, but he is just fantastic to watch.
They did an overhead. They did an overhead angle, Paul, of De Bruyne's pass.
Yeah.
It was like watching the NFL on Fox or something. I'm just cutting a shed out the Fox for Warren Barton. But they did an overhead shot of his pass. It was like a quarterback throwing exactly pinpoint to a wide receiver. I've never seen anything like it. He made it look like it was nothing, and it was just once actually that pass went down into the penalty box, I went, we're done for. That's a goal. We're done for. It was that good of a pass.
Yeah.
And just before we talk about, I suppose, just a kind of a summation of how we ended up, the result being what it was, I think I saw a screen grab and a couple of comments about it, like that the amount of space he did end up having, I think, for his own, even for his own goal. Like, and there's, again, we go back to this debate about we don't have a number 6. And we find ourselves in these situations where all 3 of, let's say, Bruno and Longstaff and Miley are collectively too high, and therefore giving, as Alan said, arguably one of the best, if not the best, midfielder and or number 10 and or player in the world. Like, it's that much space.
Too much space.
That's still something we need to solve. Whether that's the famed number 6 transfer or just we need a bit more discipline, I guess, in that space, because we're getting caught there, right, against really, really elite players. Okay. The one thing we wanted to, I suppose, bring up here, Alan, I'll come to you. So I feel like Newcastle have found ourselves in a couple of situations in the last few weeks and months where we're either defending narrow leads, PSG comes to mind, Chelsea comes to mind, and obviously then Man City, and we're backs against the wall, and we're giving it everything to a team who's coming at us at speed with world-class players. and we kind of are doing it with the same players who started the game.
Yeah,
And we just don't have the options, and therefore don't have the energy levels.
Yeah, we have very little off the bench still. Like, brought on Lewis Hall. Like, that's really all you've got off the bench, unless you're going to start bringing on your Dummets and your Richies and your Bruce bargain bin bonanzas. That's what you're essentially bringing on. Like, it just doesn't work. It's tough to say we are a year ahead of schedule, but we are. So take this on the chin, lads. Enjoy it. Like, in 5 years' time, and we're all giving out that we've only won 4 FA Cups in 5 years. Like, we'll be thinking back to these days, going, remember we were giving out about only losing 3-2 to the Club World Champions? Because I do.
Yeah.
And with, again, as we said, with basically the 11 that starts the game without, without having what realistically is what you need is, we need legs, you need energy, but we need quality. And no offense to the players on the bench, they're either a little bit past it, not at the same quality levels, or too young. And it's asking a lot for Lewis Miley to keep going for 90 minutes against the likes of Man City, who know how to do this, who know how to get back in games. We've seen Real Madrid do it for years as well. Do you know what I mean? They just get themselves back into it. Sadly, it does leave us in a position where I think, Krisho, do we have the worst or the second worst record when it comes to conceding late in the Premier League?
Second worst, Alan, right? Second worst?
Second worst, late goals.
Second worst. And now we're 10th. We're 10th in the league. And 11 points off Champions League, which is nowhere where we thought we'd be. But again, I'm kind of with Alan on this, and I know you feel as good as well as Paul, because we've been supporting this team for such a long time. We've seen it basically being bargain bin football, shocking stuff, in a bargain bin stadium called name, just shocking stuff. So I was actually quite proud of the performance against Liverpool, even though we lost 4-2. I was equally as proud of the performance against Man City. I thought we really pushed them right up to 60 minutes. 60 minutes, and even with City, it was actually up to 85 minutes or so. So we're pushing them more and more and more and more. I really feel for Eddie Howe, it feels like he's like other managers are figuring a way of going, that they're watching the game right up to the 80th or 75th minute and going, well, he hasn't got anybody to bring on there. He hasn't got anybody to cover there. And they're just, like Alan said, bringing on world-class or very, very high-quality substitutions. Liverpool did it to us. Man City did it to us. I would assume Spurs can do it to us. Villa will do it to us next week because they've got a good subs bench as well. But like, we could just say it's all just huff and puff. It isn't. I was really proud of them. But the thing is, we are a little bit in free for all. That's what, 4 games on the bounce we've lost. I think, it's 4. Yeah,
it is 4. Yeah, 4 games. 4 league games on the spin.
Yeah. Look, as we said, we do now have what I would probably describe as a welcome gap in fixtures now. A weekend free will do us no harm. As much as I love watching Newcastle every weekend, I think Eddie Howe would be delighted to get just some time out of the spotlight, back on the training field, and even getting some players back to match fitness and seeing if we can get a couple of those injured players back in with the squad too.
I mean, Paul, he did say that they're not going to go on the training pitch. He said that he's going to give them time off, to go on, to basically go and have a bit of a break. I think the lads, mentally the lads they're drained. They're drained of football. They need a break. They need to spend some time with their family a little bit. But Villa is, like I said, I think the last episode or the episode before, Villa, we bet them 5-1 at the start of the season. Let's see how this game goes. Then we can really match up and see where we are. But brings us nicely, Paul, where we're going here with transfers, because do we need something? We need something.
We absolutely need something. And in the last few weeks, we've had some really interesting rumors and discussions on transfer news. And then in the last kind of 4 days, we've heard a mix of kind of Darren Eales and Eddie Howe talking about the obvious difficulties we face in the transfer market, the reality of our FFP situation, and what is kind of the haunting prospect that at some point in the future we may even need to sell to balance the books, and look at kind of turning a profit for some of our best assets. I think we'll come to that in a moment. Yeah. But I don't know if this will be as long a section when we talk about rumors, because we're all starting to wonder, will there be any?
No.
But Alan, I think we have to start start a little bit of
Yes.
tradition,
Yeah.
which is the
The weekly update.
the weekly update on what I've now written down as the Calvin Phillips debacle, because that seems to have evolved from being a done deal to being a deal that is just dead on its tracks. There's now discussions that he's going to Crystal Palace even. Alan, is there an "I told you so" coming on here? And I suppose, is Calvin Phillips now our modern day Hamza Choudhury?
You said it. He was nailed on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And seemingly we've walked away over the last couple of hours because we don't see it as financially viable, which I would 100% agree with. If they're asking for anything more than a 3 million loan fee, unless it's on stipulations of where you get it. So say if it's 3 million, and then if you get Champions League, it's another 4 million. If you get Champions League, you 100% don't mind that. But it's all about those type of stipulations. I don't think any loan fee should be any more than 4 million quid, really, especially not for 6 months.
Yeah.
I did say I didn't think it would happen at the very, very, very start. Don't want to say that I'm in the know or anything like that, but I'm definitely not. Still, when journalists come out and say, "Oh, Newcastle have walked away," that makes me go, "We definitely haven't. We're definitely in for this player." So when it comes out that we've decided to go up different routes, I think this might be Newcastle saying to Man City, "That's grand. We don't want them," and come back from in a week's time or 2 weeks' time and go, "Right, it's been another 2 weeks. He can either sit on your bench for the next 6 months, or he can come to us for 3 million quid and play football and get back into that England Euro squad." Because if he doesn't, he will not go to Euros. There's plenty of English midfielders knocking about that squad now. He needs to be playing. So,
fully agree.
2 cents on him.
Whether that's for us or not, I suppose only time will tell. But it's starting to fade, is how I would describe it. But look, Chris, with that said, there's still, again, despite all the FFP talk and despite a lot of that negativity and the feeling that we may not actually sign anyone, which wouldn't be terrible if we did get back some of those players who will make things feel like new signings. But that's for later. We still continue to be linked with a few players. Ousmane Diomande is still very much, I suppose, on everyone's lips when it comes to Newcastle's rumoured interest in the young Sporting centre-half. Very highly rated, very high price tag. Solanke, even Eddie Howe himself has kind of rubbished it, I suppose, as much as he likes him and he signed him at Bournemouth. He even said doesn't think we could get a player at that level and for that price tag. But I think you may even have one or two more names for us before I call you out on this joke.
Yeah, no, look, here we go, right? Just off the Calvin Phillips thing, right? And just something that I had seen before we started recording. 7 million loan fee with 40 million up front in the summer. So that's 47 million pounds. I'm sorry. If they did walk away from that, good. They should walk away from it, right? So leave that bit there. Solanke, never going to happen. Young English fella, did all right at Liverpool. They say Callum Wilson kind of replacement, kind of younger model of him. Look, let's be frank, he probably cost about 70 or 80 million pounds. Even if he did just score 10 goals this season, he scored 12. So that'll just put his price up even more. And Bournemouth are no idiots. They already paid 20 million for him. So I'm not surprised. Eddie Howe, he might look at him in the summer. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But the one key player that again, Joachim Andersen hasn't gone away, everybody. That might still happen by the 30th of January. Just letting you know. What we've got here, 24-year-old Brazilian midfielder, attacking midfielder, kind of attacking, can also play as a number 6, kind of a box-to-box midfielder. Ederson. Yeah, I thought it was the Man City keeper when I was reading about it, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. But he's named Ederson. He plays for Atalanta. Stats are off the charts. Box-to-box, full of energy. Fantastic. Really maybe something we'd need. And it looks like we can either get him in on a loan or we can get him in for about 20 million pounds in January. 20 million pounds. Now, where we get that from, I'm not sure, even if Newcastle have 20 million pounds to spend on a player. Alan, anything do we have 20 million pounds? Do we have 10 million pounds?
We could potentially go out and spend 50 million, but we'd be robbing Peter to pay Paul. We'd be taken from the summer transfer budget, potentially. Right. If you listen to, there's a guy on Twitter, if you're actually interested in this type of thing, Kieran Maguire on Twitter is very, very, very interesting. And then there's the Swiss Ramble, who go through deep dives of financial issues on football. They're very, very good. And that's where I get 120% of my info. So don't worry, I'm not coming up with any of this. So you don't have to worry about it being me. It is other people that I'm robbing their info and just not crediting until today. So yes, we have money, but if we spend it, we're robbing ourselves basically. Whereas I think we might be trying to keep our powder dry to go a little bit bigger in the summer. So
right.
It's a rock and a hard place. What do we do? You don't know.
Look at the way I see it, right? And Paul, if Joe Linton wasn't out for 6 to 8 weeks, or possibly even until the end of the season, I could see us trying to get Calvin Phillips. If it didn't happen. But now I really feel we have to do something. We have to get somebody.
Yeah.
There's so many names that we could be here for nearly an hour and a half talking through the names that have been thrown at Newcastle. But there's something in, and the last one I'll throw in just to give Alan a laugh, because I know I love making him shake his head. I've got an awful feeling, and well, you hear this now, and the lads are all wincing at me. Everybody, Conor Gallagher could come into Conor Gallagher coming to Newcastle for £45 million. Tottenham will go a different direction. Dan Ashford will slip in there. We'll take Conor Gallagher. Thanks very much. 30th of January, 29th of January, £43 million. Conor Gallagher.
Would love it. We don't have that money.
Well, it's the money. It's the money for me. And the gamble of it, I suppose. Especially
there's no gamble there, surely.
Hard to know. I think there's a lot of unknown factors here.
I think he's very, very good. He's very good.
He's a Rob Lee type of player. I love it.
Yeah.
Very good.
He's got his hair is more like Warren Barton, but yeah, definitely not. Playing position. Some interesting facts there, lads. And I suppose, Alan, you used the phrase there, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Not me, of course. Nobody pays me for anything, unfortunately, around here. Player sales has almost probably taken nearly more coverage in the last couple of days. Now, look, last week we very much dismissed the notion of a Bruno going to PSG or even Barcelona, Real Madrid, or at least in the immediate future, and even the whole Isaac to Arsenal thing. But I guess, Alan, like, now that we've heard, like, since we last recorded, we've heard what Darren Eales has said. We've heard what Eddie Howe has said. I've seen a lot of the breakdowns from Kieran Maguire and the like on how this all works. Have we spoken a little bit too soon? Do you fear January, whatever about the summer, do you fear January for a player sale?
Unless an absolutely astronomical offer comes in, I can't see us letting anyone go. It's a really tough one to say, oh yeah, no, definitely no one's going. Because if, like, let's be honest, if City come in and offer 185 million for Isaac, you can't turn that money down when you're in this situation we're in. Like, it just doesn't happen. But it's all about, it has to be absolutely astronomical. It has to be, like, you just can't turn it down. It has to be one of them. But I can't see that happening. So I don't think we will lose anyone. Not anyone major, I should say. I still think we could lose a player or two, but
as part of the plan.
Yeah, that'll all be.
I can see Jeff Hendrick going to Real Madrid for close to 30 to 40 million pounds. Easy. You know what I mean? Great holding midfielder. Come on. No?
It's not yet time for bad take of the week. It's coming. Just hold your horse.
Come on, Jeff Hendrick.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I know this talks of Bruno having a clause in there. He's playing, despite our results, he's playing unbelievable football. Do you know what I mean? And I think if we unlocked him with a more defensive player beside him, I'd love to see what could happen there. But again, all remains to be seen. I suppose with that, Chris Shaw.
Yeah.
Alan, will we let him do it? I suppose we'll have to.
I suppose we have to, don't we?
It is, of course, my favorite time of the week, which is Chris Shaw's bad take of the week. Take it away, Chris.
Okay, everybody. All right. I'm really getting used to this now. I really am. Even though I'm an incredibly positive person, but I do enjoy having a bad take. Hey, Al. Hey. But having a bad take of the week. I'm just going to come out and say it. Yeah. Newcastle are broke. Newcastle are straight up broke. Yeah, broke. Yeah. All the interviews that have been done in the last 2 weeks, all of Eddie Howe's kind of misnomers and misleading answers left and right. Newcastle are broke. Okay. And I want to, and here you kind of think, well, we kind of know that a little bit, Chris. They need to make more commercial revenue. We've got the Adidas deal coming up, blah, 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 blah. We're a lot more broke than people think we are. That's why I posed that question to Alan. Do we have 10 or 20 million? without having to sell Bruno Gomes to PSG in January, without having to sell Isak to Man City on June the 1st. Is it a case that they are preempting the Newcastle fan base outrage by really just saying it as it is? Look, guys, we're not doing commercially as good as you think we might be. Man City makes £770 million revenue. We make 250 just, right? We're nearly 500 million behind them, okay? That's going to take 5 to 6 years to catch up with. I don't care what deals we're signing, yeah? Turn the stadium into an airplane, yeah? Do whatever you have to. But we're not going to make up that ground in 1 or 2 years. So I'm saying it out straight. Newcastle are straight up broke. Yeah, and if Newcastle fans think that there's going to be some kind of magical deals done in January or some magnificent signings in the summer, they need to get a grip, because Isak's going to be sold and Bruno Guimaraes is going to be sold. And Joe Linton might even be sold. And maybe even Nick Pope. Now, these are 4 players that I believe that have the highest asset value, apart from Botman, but Botman's not going anywhere. That's really he's going to be the backbone with Miley in that in the future. But everyone needs to start kind of getting their tissues ready to wipe their tears, because Bruno and Isak are going to have to be sold either this January or in June, so that we are, as I said, not broke anymore. So the richest club in the world are broke.
I'm torn here. It's like, I think it's a bad take to go, we're broke and things are desperate, right? I mean, they've invested a ton of money on behind the scenes things, right? The stadium and the player facilities and even the ladies team. Like, you can't be broke when you've got plenty of money. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work for me, right? And I don't have plenty of money, but I don't think I'm broke. But the reality of the situation is, I guess it's like we might as well be, in terms of like we're hamstrung, and
like half our players, Paul, hamstrung.
Basically. Yeah, it's a very good metaphor, actually. I just feel like obviously we're so behind when it comes to just revenue, right? In terms of the income, and it's been so badly managed for years. I think that's just obviously that's where we are. That's almost a pod for another day as well to go into some of those details. But I just think, I mean, if I'm a Nottingham Forest fan, I would be quaking in my boots, because there's no way their revenue could be close or above ours, and they've spent, if not outspent us, so they have to be in trouble if we're so scared of it. But as we said, all for another day. Right, lads, I think we can move and have some fun here now, because this is a little bit of a bonus section. We don't have a game to talk to. We're not going to do a quiz this week either. This kind of replaces the quiz as well. So, Chris, you can exhale.
Yeah, he's not allowed to lose again.
Yeah. But in the absence of previewing a game, because basically we're not playing Aston Villa now, for another, basically on the day of recording, it's about a week and a half. So instead, we're going to have some fun. I thought it would be a nice idea if we had a nice collaborative, cooperative discussion, Alan and Chris show, on what we feel would be the best all-time Newcastle United 11 from the Premier League era. So that would bring us from the 92-93 season onwards. So what we've done, lads, is we've selected kind of around 4 players for each position. For some of them, we've grouped them like the 2 centre-backs or the 2 centre midfielders, assuming that's what we're going to do formation-wise.
4-4-2.
And we're going to we'll rattle through each of the selections or the options, the candidates, and let's just see, seeing as there's 3 of us, we'll see if we can come to an agreement on each one and end up with hopefully a unanimous and elite level all-time Newcastle best 11.
We'll pop it on the screen, Paul, at the end of it.
Yes, absolutely. Will be. I'm going to actually do up a beautiful graphic for it as well. You can
very nice.
Assuming I don't do something like just go out and get drunk, because this conversation about being broke has depressed me.
It's a bad take, guys.
Alan, Chris show. Yeah, I assume we're going to go with the 4-4-2 on this to kind of give us, I suppose, the most selection options, regardless of tactics.
You used to want the 4-4-2, so I'm already outvoted on that one. But yeah, we'll go with a 4-4-2.
Alan, you were going to go what? 4-2-3-1 or something?
Yeah, I wanted a 4-2-3-1.
We'll come back. We'll come back to that and see. We'll have options. Alan still thinks he's playing Football Manager, but this is real life. Yeah.
As long as we have space for Jeff Hendrick, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh, that old chest. Let's start with a bit of logic and sense before it gets out of hand, and it will. We'll go with the goalkeeper position. So in between the sticks, we have 4 options in front of us as potential candidates. So we have Pavel Srnicek, we have Shaka Hislop, we have Shay Given, and we have our current number 1, although injured, Nick Pope. So what we'll do, lads, is I think just the easiest thing to do would be give me your vote and maybe tell me why. And if anyone really pushed you, why did they almost get in? I'm going to start with Krisho on this one.
Right. Okay. Everyone knows my views on Nick Pope, but I won't say them again on the podcast. Most of the people in the Irish mags already know it. I'm going to go Shay Given. Shay Given's a legend, and we hope to speak to him soon, if you're listening, Shay. But Shay Given, great shot stopper, great ambassador for the club, just an all-round great performances when I was growing up watching Newcastle. Love the guy. Shay Given.
Shay Given gets Krisho's vote. I think that's relatively acceptable because, Alan, you seem to be nodding in agreement.
Well, I lied to the Archbishop of Dublin when I was making my confirmation to pick the name Shay as my confirmation name. So it's Shay Given.
I guess that's enough said.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm going to have to go with Shay as well. I mean, shot stopper, and the one thing I always think about with Shay Given, people will say, it's kicking, blah, 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 and that's still a thing right in the modern day, but Shay Given had a very mixed bag of defensive lines ahead of him that ranged from Colaccini, for example.
Boom Song.
I don't know, Boom Song, Woodgate Bramble.
Bramble.
Up, down, up, down. Yeah. So for Shay to do what he did for that length of time with a lot of that going on around him, unbelievable. So yeah, Shay is unanimous, lads, and he's our number 1. And we'll go on to number 2, which will be our right back. And it's nice to say that one of our selection was actually on this show last week. Because our 4 right back options are, of course, Warren Barton. We have Matthew Debussy. We have Kieran Trippier. And we have Steve Watson. So, again, we'll go in order, lads. Krisho.
Jesus, this one's actually quite hard. Because I thought Steve Watson was an excellent right back. Kieran Trippier clearly would be, everyone would be screaming at the podcast. Clearly, Kieran Trippier. But look, I'm going to be honest with you. For the amount of time that he was the left back, the certain roles that he played, the leadership on the pitch, the fact that he's classified as a Newcastle United legend already, and the fact that he has better hair than Shay Given and is a better dancer, it has to be Warren Barton. For me, has to be Warren Barton. Again, this is just from my years of growing up watching them. I thought he was exceptional. Really, really great player. Brilliant. Right back. So not Kieran Trippier, Warren Barton.
Warren Barton for Krisho. Alan.
I also am going to say Warren Barton for pretty much the same reasons. Trippier has done it for 2 or 3 seasons. Barton done it for 6 or 7. So he still has he's a little way behind. Don't get me wrong, Trippier is unbelievable. But for what Warren Barton did for Newcastle, he's still edging it ever so slightly.
Absolutely.
I think part of me is glad that the deciding vote didn't come to me on this one because I would have been in pain. Part of me is like, if I'm looking at Newcastle specifically, and you got that longevity, and you've got I suppose that legend factor. Yeah, it would have been Warren Barton for me. If I'm looking at who's the best right back that's played for Newcastle, it's hard to disregard Trippier's record before Newcastle. Like what he did at Tottenham and what he did at Atletico Madrid and what he's done for England. I may have leaned on Trippier a little bit, but the vote is out of my hands. It is going to be our friend Warren Barton. Now let's go to the other side of defence. So we're going to pick a left back, guys. And we have 4 candidates on the screen. I think I want to say we might have 4.5 here because I've grouped kind of 2 together. So we have Barry Venison, who we actually mentioned, I think, when talking to Warren as well. Glorious, long blonde hair flowing back in the day, way back when. Sticking with the blonde theme, we have John Beresford, who was the left back during the Entertainers era. I think we've grouped together one of Jose Enrique and David Santon, because I think for me, length of time spent at the club, even though they're both really good players. And then, of course, we have our current left back, Dan Byrne. So, interesting one, Krisho.
All the Newcastle fans are like, "Where's Paul Dummett?" Where is Paul Dummett? Look, Jose Enrique is a Liverpool fan, so I don't actually mention his name anymore. Davide Santon, Yeah, no. Dan Byrne, no. John Beresford has to be. And again, maybe I'm showing my age. John Beresford was an excellent left back, knew his position, played really well down the wings, just excelled in every way. Even for such a small wee chap, he was brilliant. Yeah, so it's John Beresford for me all the way at left back.
Fair enough. Alan?
I really, really want to say Enrique and David Santon, but as Grisho said, he turned on us the second he left. Jose Enrique just turned, and I hate him on Twitter now. I absolutely hate him on Twitter now because of it. Yeah. He's a Scouser now. He was never a Geordie. He was a Scouser. So
fair enough.
I'm gonna go Beresford as well. Yeah, it can't be Dan Byrne because he's not a left back, unfortunately.
Yeah. See, we do agree, Paul. We do agree sometimes. Why are you still get to the midfield?
Don't worry, I'm going to get you. I'll get you. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, look, I think I agree. For me, it's an interesting one. I think this is a role or position in the Newcastle kind of last 20 years that we've not been hugely successful in. No. Olivier Bernard crossed my mind on this one. Was there for a long time, but like, I guess, I don't know, defensively, sometimes questionable.
Yeah, he was. The best thing he ever did for Newcastle was get knocked out by Robert.
I remember that. Great memes. But yeah, I just feel like, I feel like we've just, it's not a position that jumps out, but Beresford was great. Warren said it himself. He couldn't believe that Beresford never got called up for England as well. So yeah, we're going to go with John Beresford on that one, lads. Let's continue on. This is going to be a slightly trickier one, but hopefully a bit quicker because we have to pick 2 centre halves now. So we have a list of, I think we have 6 in front of us for this one, guys. So we have Philippe Albert, we have Colaccini, we have Fabian Schär, Sven Botman, Nikos Dabizas, and Jonathan Woodgate. So I'm going to ask you lads to give me 2.
Yeah.
Just give me your 2 votes. Krisho.
Darren Peacock should be in there, but Philippe Albert and Colaccini.
Krisho's going for Albert and Colaccini.
Yeah, Colaccini was a magnificent defender.
Yes, yeah, I agree. This is a tough one, Alan.
This is the first time we're not going to agree 100%, but I am also going to go Colaccini. But I'm going to throw in the best defender that Newcastle United have ever had. That's Sven Botman.
Oof.
He's world class. He's a Rolls Royce, lads.
No, he is. Interesting.
Well, so we have 2 votes for Colaccini, so Colaccini's on the bus, lads. And then 1 vote for Albert, 1 vote for Botman. I was really hoping this wouldn't happen.
We got you.
I think that it's hard. Like, I agree with Alan when he says that he's arguably the best defender we've ever had. I just feel like Albert might trump him for contribution, longevity, and legendary status. And again, like Krisho, I'm on the elderly side of things in terms of nostalgia. I think I want Sven Botman to stay around and prove us wrong. Well, not prove me wrong, but like overtake one of these guys with a bit more time. So because of that, I'm going to go Albert alongside Colaccini. Which swings it. And I'm sorry, Sven, if you're listening.
We'll put Sven on the bench. He'll be the first sub on the bench.
Yes. Right. We'll speed things up because we're going to move into 2 positions that require a bit of speed, Krisho.
Right.
On the right wing, our 4 options are Keith Gillespie, Nalberto Solano, Miguel Almiron, and Rule Fox.
It's between 2. Solano. No, it'll be Solano. It's just pitch perfect crosses, real stylish. Just an excellent player. Gillespie, fantastic winger in that. Miggy, not so much. Rule Fox also very, very good and a good shout to add him in. But Nobby Solano on the right wing for me.
Fair enough. And then over to you, Alan.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. Yeah, it's Nobby Solano all day long out of those 4, unfortunately. 3 great other players, but Nobby was just different gravy when it comes to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fair to say. I fully agree. I don't even need to add as context to why. The record speaks for itself. Solano is on the bus. Some cracking goals scored as well, free kicks, everything.
Yeah.
On the other side of the pitch, Chris Shaw,
Yeah.
we are looking at the left wing position.
Oof.
Two names in particular jumped out to me when I was thinking about this, which is David Ginola and Laurent Robert. And already I have a headache trying to decide.
Yes.
Scott Sellers has been added to this list, mainly from Chris Shaw in terms of going back to the old school. I know there was. I'm trying to think of the time frame, but obviously he was there for the Premier League year.
Just about.
We've added Anthony Gordon on here because again, when we're looking at sheer class quality, he's very hard to not put him there. I would say in comparison to a lot of our previous left wingers. So Chris Shaw,
Yes.
with your vote.
Laurent Robert. A lot of people maybe thought I was going to say David Ginola, and he is a Newcastle United legend, right? Played with right foot, left foot. The fact that he went to Spurs really upset me when I was a younger fella, and I've never really forgiven him for it. I was all right with Robert going back to Paris, no problem with that. But Ginola going to Spurs destroyed it for me. So for that reason only, Laurent Robert.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Alan.
100%. Robert. I was there for the free kick he scored against Liverpool. That was in the film goal. Absolutely outstanding. But then there's also that like weird backflip overhead kind of backheel thing he scored against Fulham. Yeah, whatever the hell that was. Outstanding. But then the real highlight of his career was when he was taken off in his last game and he left St. James's Park in a pair of boxers. And that was it. Everything else went into the crowd. He left the pitch in a pair of boxers. Not many men can say that in St. James's Park, but he can.
Paul Slaughter can. Paul Slaughter can.
We didn't show that photo.
Thank God.
Didn't show that
Thank
photo.
God. No, look, I'm in agreement. As much as I loved David Ginola back in the day, I wish he stuck around a bit longer.
Yes.
Bad decision to sell him. I can't even remember if we got much money for him. But
12
Robert, I've said this
think it was
before.
that.
I think I've said this on the show, and I've said this to probably everyone I know. Laurent Robert has some like pretty much up there with some of the best goal montages you'll see on YouTube.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I think there was 2 he scored against Spurs.
Spurs, yeah, in the same game. Both of them were from 40 yards. It was a joke.
This left, just the left foot. I mean, his left foot alone was just like he deserves to be on that left wing.
Yeah.
No questions.
Right.
Right, lads. This for me is where things get a bit tricky. We
Yikes.
have to pick 2 centre midfielders
Christ.
from a list containing the following names: Rob Lee, Gary Speed, Chick Toyote, 2 legends, lads. So sad that they're both gone. Bruno Guimaraes, Peter Beardsley, Johan Cabaye, Jorginho Wijnaldum, and Joe Linton. We've actually ended up with 8 in the little short list there.
Jesus.
Joe Linton, just because we love him to death. We maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe he shouldn't be there.
Mm.
But Chris Shaw,
Oh.
I'm gonna need to press you for 2 midfielders for this role.
Okay, I'm not going to say Peter Beardsley because I play him up as a striker, right? But because that's going to get me away with not picking him, right? Oh God, Gary Speed and Johan Cabaye.
Chris Shaw's gone with Speed and Cabaye, Alan.
Ooh, hang on. No. Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. Rob Lee and Gary Speed. I'm doing it. Rob Lee and Gary Speed.
Rob Lee and Gary Speed.
Yeah.
Alan.
It's so tough. There's arguments for every single player, but for what they've done with ourselves, it's gonna have to be Gary Speed, and just for being all around world class, it's Bruno G. So it's Gary Speed and Bruno Guimaraes in my midfield partnership.
Wow.
Right. So Gary Speed is in, and I think deservedly so. He was definitely on my list as well. Just an all-round unbelievable midfielder, like arguably unsung hero, but like many would think he's a defensive midfielder, but actually scored some huge goals for Newcastle.
If we had him on our corners, today, we'd have at least 10 to 15 goals a season. Easy.
If only.
He could score some headers.
He could indeed. So Gary Speed is in. I'm torn in terms of how good Peter Beardsley was and how good Bruno Guimaraes is. And I lads. Sometimes you see this with the Newcastle glasses on and the bias and all that, but I think Bruno is up there, with one of the best Premier League midfielders currently and/or in recent times. And I think he will go so much further, whether that's with us or not. So I'm going to go Bruno on this one, actually. I think he's been around long enough, and since day one, since he joined, has been outstanding. And we've seen the stats when he's not in the squad, and I think that for me says enough. So that vote puts Bruno in alongside Gary Speed.
Okay.
Wow. So you haven't argued yet, lads, but I think you probably got it out of your system before we click record. But that'll help, because it'll be less swearing for me to edit out when we're putting this show together. But maybe I've spoken too soon, because we're going now to the striker role. Because we're going to 4-4-2, we're going to have two strikers up front for this all-time 11. We have a list in front of us to choose from. There's currently 7 strikers on it. And they go Andy Cole, Les Ferdinand, Faustino Asprilla, Alan Shearer, Papi Cisse, Callum Wilson, and Alexander Isak. And if Craig Bellamy or Demba Ba or Andy Carroll are listening, there's too many of you lads. It's very difficult.
Well, there is one missing. There is one missing. Mac and Slayer.
Best.
Oh, Mac and Slayer. Joe Lamiobi.
Joel has another shout. Yeah.
He's not Stefan Gavarch, no?
No, or Paul Dalglish. No, not Paul Dalglish either.
Just misses out alongside Daryl Murphy. Right. Respect the name. Crisho.
Well, there's 2 strikers. Obviously, one of them is going to be Alan Shearer. I can tell you that.
You'd like to think so, yeah.
I'd like to think so. Let me see. Andy Cole and Alan Shearer. There you go.
Okay.
Even though he went to Man Red, and he's originally from Manchester or Bristol or somewhere, Andy Cole was sensational in the 2-3 years he was with us, and he propelled the club up to a format where we were challenging the Premier League. So even though he had Peter Beardsley putting him on a plate for him, he did score some exceptional goals. So Alan Shearer and Andy Cole.
Fair shout indeed. And Alan, we know that Crisho is a secret Man Red fan anyway.
Yeah, we all do. So that's why you picked him.
That hurts my feelings.
If you know from one. Alan.
Well, there's obviously one going in, and that's my namesake, Alan Shearer. The other striker is a tough one to call. I'm not putting Andy Cole in because he was only with us for 2 or 3 seasons. Same with Les Ferdinand. See, this is where I'm kind of tying my own arms here. Everyone was kind of good for 2 or 3 seasons and then kind of fell off. But Callum Wilson is our 3rd highest ever goal scorer in Premier League history. So, like, he came in for 15 million and that man got goals. He's done it in less time than most of their players. So I'm going to have to go Shearer and Wilson. We just haven't seen enough of Isak to warrant it yet, I don't think. But that's who I'm going with. Shearer and Wilson.
Wow.
Wow.
I did not expect you to say that. I did not expect you to say that.
This is why he wanted the 4-2-3-1, so he didn't have to pick a second.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, this is so tough. The Andy Cole to Man Red thing is, it's tough, but like, 'cause he scored so many goals for Newcastle. Slightly predates my memory of watching Newcastle. Like, Les Ferdinand was one of the players that made me fall in love with Newcastle when I was, whatever I was, 7 years old. And obviously Asprilla, like, I had Asprilla's name on the back of one of the first ever kits I had. He was very erratic in form, I think. You know, you look back with the nostalgia and the romance, and you're like, that hat-trick against Barcelona, how do you not say he was elite? Isak, I think, is going to be, if he stays around, I think Isak is behind Shearer going to be the obvious choice. I think Alan has me convinced, you know. And I genuinely, when I typed this up and when we were talking as Chris Show started, I didn't know I was going to end up saying Callum Wilson. But the more I think about it, the goal record, the goals per minutes. I mean, I know we even said recently like how much he's missed, but he's carried us before this takeover, before this Eddie Howe era, he was carrying us, and he's continued to do so because let's face it, as good as Isak is, and lads, I'm arguably Isak's biggest ever fan.
Yeah,
he's missed quite a lot, and obviously so has Wilson. But Wilson has still, when Wilson is there, he's scored for us, and the record speaks for itself. Yeah. Obviously, the injuries aside, but yeah, he went to the World Cup. Do you know what I mean? I think, obviously Harry Kane in the way. I might have to pick Callum Wilson here, and I wasn't expecting to say that.
Wow, Wilson and Shearer.
So it looks like it's Wilson and Shearer, lads. Wow. Okay. This may cause some controversy, and that's totally fine. We've not put we haven't sat down before this, listeners, to build this. We've built it live on the spot. We threw together a short list, and just to recap on it, we're looking at Shea Given in goals, Barton and Beresford as our fullbacks, Colaccini and Albert in defence, Gary Speed and Bruno in the middle, Solano on the right, Robert on the left, and Shearer and Callum Wilson up front. Lads, it's not
some
a bad
team.
side.
No, that is some team.
There's goals there.
There's goals there, and as we said, Sven Botman, Alexander Isak, Trippier, they still have time to change the course of the Irish Mags Best 11 history, and we all very much hope they do it because let's face it, they are elite level players, and we're delighted to have them at the club. Right, guys, that was fun, I have to say. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are, listeners, of course. Obviously, you can let us know if you're looking at YouTube, or if not, jump over. You can let us know in the comment section your own best 11. Do you agree with some of our selections? Do you disagree? Do feel free to share, and we'll obviously look back on them for next week's pod. Do not hesitate to let us know on the Twitter as well and on Instagram when we'll be posting out this pod. Give us a reply and let us know your own best 11s, because it is, I have to say, it was excruciating. It's really, really tough to pick, especially when you just love all these players so much. So for now, lads, I guess that probably wraps us up, I think, for episode 7. A quick shout out that there will be a fan survey coming up by the end of the month, so keep an eye out for that in the coming days and weeks. You can also find all the links to the Irish Mag socials in the description below. A special request from me this week, listeners. Wherever you're listening right now, we would love if you could drop us a follow or subscribe, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple. If you have the ability to rate the pod and the episode, please do. We always love when people subscribe to the YouTube channel. Drop a like on this video. As we said, drop a comment. It all helps for us to get the Irish Mags brand and obviously the show further and wider out in the Newcastle community. And I think we'll be back for more next week. Not one, but 2 games to preview. We're going to be talking about our FA Cup 4th round clash away to Fulham. And then we have to talk about a trip to Aston Villa, who, as Krisho mentioned, we did beat 5-1 in the opening game of the season. And
do it again.
Hopefully we're living in their heads rent-free, lads. So
until
then, as usual, away the lads. We'll say slán go fóill, and we'll see you all again very soon. Say goodbye, gentlemen.
Slán, lads.
Slán, everybody. Slán, fellas. See you again next week.
Have a good week, and we'll see you all next week for episode 8.